Well, just like us, Joe Rogan is also wondering the real reason why Candace Owens was fired, even though it sounds like he has his suspicions. But then he goes on to speak about the Israel-Palestine conflict. So check this out.
Even in the right, like, look what's going on with Candace Owens and Ben Shapiro.
Dude.
Like, what did she say? I want to know what she was fired for. Because was it criticism of Israel? Was it, I mean, did she show that Edward Snowden video that he put up on Twitter that shows them
maybe
drone bombing those kids that are, those men, I should say, unarmed people that were walking towards the rubble that clearly weren't causing any danger to anybody?
Yeah,
They just bombed them.
Yeah, no, it's your duty. It's just like for Biden or whoever you like, you're supposed to cover up for them because.
But the whole thing is like they were always saying they're only targeting Hamas and everybody else is a casualty. Well, if those guys are just unarmed civilians and they're walking alone, that's what they appear to be.
Dresden.
And you just blast them from the sky with robots.
This is the tragedy of war.
Yeah, this is insane. And no one knows what to think now because if you can't talk about that, if you can't say that's real, then you're saying that genocide is okay as long as we're doing it. And
that is what we're saying.
And if you're saying that from a perspective of someone who literally went through the Holocaust, or your people, your tribe went through the fucking Holocaust, and now you're willing to do it?
I hope the irony's not lost on you.
It's so nuts. It's so hard to imagine that someone where a culture, like a country was like officially founded in what, 47?
48.
48? Okay. Officially founded. So that's so recent. and you guys are willing to do what was done to you that led you to believe that you needed to start your own country? You're willing to do that at least on a small scale in Gaza. Like there's nothing left. If you see the videos, let's see some recent footage of Gaza.
Yeah, I don't understand why Joe doesn't understand this. Like Joe's a fighter. He should know this. Like, he should be very familiar with this. Like, I think maybe nobody's broken it down to Joe in a fighting analogy for him. So here I am breaking this down for you, Joe. War is like a street fight. There are no rules. The only rule is whoever walks away. That's the only rules. So I need you to imagine yourself, Joe, in a street fight, okay? If the guy that you're fighting is bigger than you and is faster than you, and is punching harder than you, and is kicking harder than you, and has a longer reach than you, and in all these measurable aspects, he's better than you, how long are you going to continue fighting clean and fair until you realize that your life is on the line and that nobody cares about the rules of the fight? This is a literal fight for survival. And in case that one wasn't clear enough, here's another fighting analogy for you, Joe. Say you and an opponent are in a boxing ring, all right? You're boxing each other. And, you know, everybody's pretty familiar with the rules of boxing, so I shouldn't need to really go through it. But if you're in this ring with this opponent and, you know, you guys are fighting for the title of winner or whatever you're fighting for, and the fight starts, and for the first, like, 30 seconds, it's a fair fight. And then all of a sudden, your opponent starts punching you below the belt. Well, you look to the referee to be like, hey, man, like, that's against the rules. Like, aren't you going to do something about it? And the referee just continues on like, I didn't see anything wrong. Nothing wrong here. Continue on fighting. Well, now what if your opponent pulls a Mike Tyson and literally bites your ear off, Joe? And you look to the referee like, what the fuck, man? Aren't you going to, like, call the fight now? Like, this dude literally bit my ear off. And the referee just looks at you like, nah, man, it's all cool. Keep fighting. How much? Now, be honest with me, Joe. How long would you get punched below the belt? How many ears would you let get bitten off you before you finally said, all right, if this guy isn't going to follow the rules, then why should I? Because that's the Israeli perspective on the matter. And because every time some rules get established, the Israelis try to respect the rules. And then the Palestinians break the rules. And then the Israelis point to the global world like, hey, look, these guys are breaking the rules that everyone agreed upon. And then nobody does anything. Everyone just kind of brushes it off as whatever. They're just a bunch of, you know, sand people that don't know no better. And then Israel says, okay, well, fine. If nobody's going to do anything about this, then we'll do something about it. And then some innocent people accidentally get killed as collateral damage because Hamas has been known to establish their military bases underneath hospitals and schools. So It's almost impossible to not kill civilians as collateral damage. This is war, guys. Let's not pretend like war is not what war is. There's always collateral damage in war, whether you anticipate it or not. No matter how hard you try to avoid it, there will always be collateral damage. It's war. These are just facts. And then when inevitably there is some collateral damage from the Israelis trying to get back at Hamas, then all of a sudden, all the left-wing media goes buck wild saying, oh, look, the Israelis are terrorists. They're killing civilians indiscriminately. When it's like, no, actually Hamas was firing rockets indiscriminately into Israeli cities. And it's like, how? Here's the question you need to ask yourself, Joe, okay? And everyone who needs to ask themselves who supports Palestine and not Israel is, if one side is killing innocent civilians and the other side is not killing innocent civilians, how many innocent civilian lives must be lost on the side that is not killing innocents before you finally say, okay, it's okay for them to kill innocents? Now, I know some of you are going to try and go with the argument of, well, they should just be better than that because blah, 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 blah. Nobody's better than that because, like I mentioned earlier, this is war. There are always collateral damage and collateral casualties in war. That's how war operates. You cannot avoid it. It's war. The only way to avoid it is to avoid war altogether. So if you think Israel should for some reason be punished for killing innocent civilians, but Palestine should not be, then you need to explain why the human cost of innocent life on one side is acceptable but is not on the other. Because, yes, I believe killing all innocent life is wrong. However, allowing innocent life to be killed by somebody else that you could kill to prevent innocent life from being killed is a moral right and must be done by those who are strong enough and capable of removing such an evil from this world. In fact, I would go as far as to say it is the duty of the righteous to smite the evil from the face of this earth. And in a way, I kind of have a Kid Rock attitude on this of the people who are living there know what's going on. They can see what's happening. They know war is happening. And anyone with half a brain would leave if they didn't want anything bad to happen to them. So in a way, I'm kind of a victim blamer here because, anyone who lives in Palestine is a fool. That country is falling apart. So moral of the story is, don't be controlled by your emotions. Be rational about things, because when you let your emotions make your decisions, you can be whipped up into a frenzy, into believing things that are factually inaccurate and false, which can allow more innocent lives to be lost. Because we've got to be a realist about the situation. We've already lost too much innocent life. So the goal now needs to be to reduce the amount of innocent life lost as much as humanly possible, if not to zero. And if killing a few hundred innocent Palestinians saves a few thousand innocent Israelis, well, the way I see that, 1,000 outnumbers 100. Now, I'm not excusing the taking of life in any sense. However, we need to look at this through a very rational, logical, and reasonable lens, because there's one side that's clearly in the wrong here. And while the other side is not the ideal, perfect good that we would wish it to be, it's still better than the other evil that it opposes. So sometimes you got to pick like you pick the presidents. You got to pick the lesser of two evils. Sometimes that's just how it is. When in hell, you don't always have the choice of good or evil. Sometimes you just have the choice of evil or more evil. When life hands you lemons, got to make lemonade.